Welcome to Rolling Conversations with James and Sarah. Today, we're going to talk about belt promotions, belts, and all the drama that comes with that.
Ego, mostly.
Mostly. So,
It's that time of year, folks.
it is that time of year.
Well, at traditional schools, it's that time of
Yeah,
year.
so it's that time of year. We're coming into fall holidays. Technically, holidays already past Thanksgiving.
Coming into fall.
Well,
We are not coming into fall. We are in winter.
Well, Florida, so.
We only have summer.
But it is kind of common that this time of year, a lot of schools have their belt promotions, like right before the holidays, because they know that typically holidays, people start falling off. They're not training as much. And it's kind of a ingenious model. So you hold your belt promotions kind of at the, right before the holidays come up, which keeps people engaged and coming to class through the summertime, because they know right after summer coming into fall is belt promotions. So people here in Florida, they tend to, when summer comes around, we're doing everything but jiu-jitsu. We're at the beach, fishing, going on vacation, like doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, luckily for us in Florida, we live where everybody vacations, so.
The cheesiest thing ever. While it is accurate,
It
it's
is
just
accurate,
so cheesy.
but we live where everybody else comes to vacation. So we, and I know, speaking from experience, summers typically, classes tend to fall off. So another good way to do that, to keep people engaged and in class, is have the belt promotions right after the summer into the fall, right before holidays.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty good idea.
It is. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, and then it keeps people training right up to the holidays, because
Where they disappear again.
Yeah, because they know no matter what, people are going to go out of town for Thanksgiving, Christmas, spend time with their family. They're going to be preoccupied, and you don't want to.
And it's going to take until February to get motivated to get back to the gym, because we all lack discipline at the end of the year.
Yeah, so they are going to, most school owners aren't going to try and come between holiday time, family time, stuff like that. And then those of you guys that schedule grappling tournaments on holiday weekends.
Dum-dums.
Dum-dums. That's why I could never understand that. And like fights on holiday weekends, like, that's crazy. Like, if you want people to actually come and attend, like, look at the calendar, get on the weekends. Don't.
You're getting on a soapbox.
Oh, I know, but don't look at the event, the event venue, and say, oh, this day is 20% cheaper because it's a friggin' holiday weekend and nobody's gonna come to an event. But anyway, I digress.
We were talking about belt promotions.
Belt promotions. But, so we just had ours, and I was fortunate enough to be promoted to my first degree, black belt. You can call me Master Professor or Professor Master.
It's interchangeable.
I'm still working out the kinks.
But not sensei.
Not sensei. There's only one sensei, and that is Rex Kwon-Do. Bow to your sensei. I know.
You just got way too excited about that.
I know. So I know belt promotions brings up a topic, a sensitive topic. Like, some people tend to get upset that they didn't get promoted. And vice versa. Some people feel they shouldn't have been promoted. We've both experienced both sides of that. Like, I've been promoted and didn't feel like I deserved the belt, and then I've also been passed up on promotions and felt like I've been doing this shit for 15 years, and why aren't I getting promoted? Like, so
I have never ever felt passed up, and I just have never wanted to get promoted. I wanted to be a white belt forever.
Well, speaking from experience, like, my situation might have been a little bit different because I had been training and fighting for a long time.
Well,
and
you started jiu-jitsu before.
most people
Jiu-jitsu.
trained have been alive. But so like for me, whenever I decided that I wanted to earn my black belt in jiu-jitsu, I started over at white belt. I had already been training and fighting for
A long, long
a
time.
long time, maybe 10, 15, I think 15 years around then. And putting on a white belt and finding someone to come up under, because I wanted to do it right. And I had people that I had trained under, but nothing consistent. But I know when there was some belt promotions and not getting invited or not getting promoted, I know what that's like. Like I was like, man, I've been doing this a long time. While I didn't want to skip a belt and I wanted to pay my dues at the same time, I was like, man, they really are making me earn these belts. So I know what that's like. And I know whenever I was promoted to black belt, I had been doing this 20 years. And personally, I felt like I wasn't ready, like I wasn't a black belt. But we've talked about that before.
Yeah. I mean, I would find it to be like, there would be few people that felt like they were ready. I mean, unless they're just like phenoms, you know what I mean? Like, unless they're just like smashing everybody all the time, they're always, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think unless you're competing all the time and like putting yourself out there, and there's always that constant comparison of skill level to this, to that, because there are two different views on belts. Well, there's several different views, but a lot of people, they look at belts as like strictly skill. You've got your two different views of belts, where there's skill level and then there's like your like presence in the sport for how long you've been there, like longevity, if you will. But so I think, in my opinion, like I could really give a shit about belts. Like, it's really cool to get promoted and you're really proud and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, like, and you say it all the time, when you're rolling with the same people all the time, you start learning people's game. Like, a lot of people get this false sense of like where they are in jiu-jitsu because they're rolling with the same people all the time. So you get those people who are like, oh, well, I'm smashing everybody, blah, 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 I should have been promoted. And it's like, pump the brakes, bro. Like, you've only been here for a little while. You know what I mean? Like, just do your time. Stop worrying about what belt you have on. Who cares? Just come in and do jiu-jitsu. But then on the opposite side of that, you have people who, like, I know I was like this, and, like, there's a couple other people who are like this, like, I'm not good enough. I don't want to get a belt. I don't want to be promoted. I don't want to go up there. I don't want anything to change. I don't want a new target on my back. Let me just come in and just do jiu-jitsu. Never get promoted. But so I think if you're competitive and you have like the constant where you're challenging yourself and going out and competing and all that, like those might be the people who never question getting promoted because they're constantly seeing like the changes in them, Does that make sense? And then there's people who just don't have the desire to compete. And they love jiu-jitsu, they love rolling in the gym, they love the daily grind, but like they do it more for themselves and less about the test, if that makes sense. And then, so for those people, they may not ever like think in their head like, oh, I'm not good enough, for this, because they just do it as like for fun.
Yeah. I remember whenever I first started in karate, there was one of the instructors said there's two, and I'm sure he stole this from somebody. He definitely did not come up.
Change a camera.
He definitely did not come up with this on his own. But he said when you start martial arts, we all start on the same path, but as we begin the journey, there's going to be a fork in the road, and in that fork, one path is going to lead you down the path of the warrior. One path is going to lead you down the path of being a master. And I was just kind of like, well, it's kind of stupid because a warrior can, teach other people or whatever. But it wasn't until I actually had been training a while and then left and went into another sport that I actually began to understand that, because there is two types of martial artists. There's the type that they're competitive driven. They want to be the best. They want to just destroy everybody. They want to train in a manner that is making them better at their sport, whatever it is, whether it's jiu-jitsu or any other martial art. And then on the other path, there's a person who's doing it for the love of the art. There's people who are doing it, they're wanting to know why we're doing techniques this way, where the warrior is like, does it work? Yes, I do it. Does it not work? No, I'm throwing it away. Whereas the path of someone who is more of the master, more of the educational, the teacher, they're wanting to know why it doesn't work. How can we make it work? How can we make it better? Different things like that, the understanding and the study. Not saying that eventually as a warrior gets older, he can't change his path, but typically, and I've been doing this long enough now to see where that statement holds true. I mean, I've been to a lot of gyms, trained with a lot of people, and typically you see those two type of people. And talking about belt promotions, you see the people in the gym who are rolling and just destroying everybody. They roll really well. Now you take into account they roll with those same people all the time, so you do understand what certain moves guys do, and
Well, you learn people's responses to things. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
And you sometimes, if you only spar from the same starting position, it's going to be Groundhog's Day. But you take that person who does really well in class, even really well in competition, and then you put them in front of the class and say, run a program. They have a hard time. They struggle. They forget things. They don't quite understand it. And me personally, I didn't really start comprehending a lot of things until I started like actually coaching and teaching. And when you say things out loud, you're like, wow, this is pretty dumb. I've heard it for so long and I've never said it out loud. And it's like, this makes absolute no sense, so I need to look into it. So there is that side that helps you learn and understand the fundamentals of movement and technique. But I know that the warrior sometimes doesn't understand why they get passed up, why they don't get promoted. And sometimes it's either time and grade. Maybe they're really successful at 2 or 3 moves and they're not advancing or developing themselves and learning new technique, And at the same time, you have somebody who maybe isn't the competitor who can do the techniques, but maybe isn't as successful when it comes time to sparring, So everything's relative, I think. I think everything is, what that person's goal is, their age, their physical abilities. And
Well, I think that's something that gets like lost, especially whenever like people start talking about belts, is you'll have like these younger people who just started, who like or even in some cases they're not younger. They've been training for a year, maybe 2 years or whatever, and they have this expectation that they should get promoted and without anything else. Or they see someone get promoted and they're like, oh, well, I should have gotten promoted too. If they got promoted, I should have gotten promoted. But I think sometimes like age gets like thrown out because the ego is so big that people don't look at someone and go, oh, well, this guy's 20 years old, has all this athleticism, is picking up things really well, blah, blah, blah. But, maturity-wise, maybe he's just not ready for the next step, whatever. Yeah. And so you let it eat and you don't promote him right away. You just want him to kind of marinate in that spot. And then that kid or whoever might get upset because they see someone who has maybe started right around the time they did, maybe a little bit different, but they might be a little older and they might be a little beat up or I don't know. I feel like age gets kind of thrown to the wayside, and everybody thinks that every blue belt is the same and every purple belt is the same and all black belts should be at a certain,
Yeah.
and not realizing that like age is a factor. Your body is a factor. What you've been through is a factor, and
So I've struggled with this recently myself. Like, am I still a black belt? Should I stop training? Should I quit?
are you still a black belt?
Yeah,
Like
because
once you become one, you can not be one anymore?
because like I was training a few weeks ago and just got my butt kicked. I mean, white to brown. I think I was smashed by every belt that night. Like literally, it was just a bad night, and I have no excuses other than it wasn't my night. And I had white belts bugging choking me. You know who you are. Or no longer a white belt, I guess, thank God. Blue belts, purples, browns, everyone was smashing me that night. And I remember sitting on the wall just like, man, this is not really embarrassing, but I felt bad about my performance. And I was sitting there really struggling, like, do I deserve to continue to wear this belt, these younger guys? And then it started clicking. And I heard someone else say it, and it really kind of helped me get my sucker out of the dirt. Was like, I am considerably older. I've had significant actual injuries. I do have physical limitations. But at the same time, like, I am a black belt, not just for my performance and my ability to how I spar or roll, but also for my knowledge. Because that night, a little bit later that night, one of the guys was asking me a question, and I was answering his question, throwing some stuff out there, and he was very appreciative, very respectful, and I was like, okay, this is why I still am a black belt. This is why, I shouldn't get down on myself. I am here to pass knowledge on, help guys get better. I can't, most coaches, unless you're at, these world-class gyms, most of your coaches can't be relied upon as your training partners. They're there to coach you, teach you, mentor you, be on the outside looking in. And, you can't lose sight of that as like a black belt, especially an older black belt with injuries. Like, we do have value. We do, still provide knowledge and things like that. So all you young guys, if you roll with older black belts and you're passing their guard, or you're getting advantages on them, even if you're submitting them, don't go home and talk shit and say like, oh, I tapped a black belt out today. You know what I mean? Because you need to take in mind, one, they probably are letting you work. Most of them, not always, but they are letting you work. And two, if you're younger, bigger, athletic, like, some of us just can't keep up, so just keep that in mind. Like, and you should never do that, whether it's you submit a black belt or a higher ranked belt. If you submit somebody, don't go posting online or talking to your friends.
Call yourself the black belt slayer.
Yeah, black belt slayer. So things like that, just be
If he
respectful.
wasn't so hot, I wouldn't like him. But
But just be mindful and respectful of that,
Yeah.
But belt promotions,
Yeah.
it's that time of year. So congratulations to everybody that got promoted. And those that didn't, better luck next year.
And blue belts don't get the flu.
Blue belts, why is that, do you think, the vanishing belt?
I don't know. I think I do think that once you get to blue belt, you're like, oh, finally. Like, I'm like, I don't know, like, I'm not the lowest guy on the totem pole. You know what I mean? But then, the people who are there because they love it, or the people who are just looking to get it, and then they're like, yes, they like hold their blue belt up and they're like, I made it. And then they're gone.
Yeah, it's a stereotype that's like been proven true.
It's been proven so true.
So many times. But it typically, to get to blue belt, most gyms, you've been training around 2 years, maybe a little longer if you're special, maybe a little shorter if you're special.
That goes both ways.
That goes both ways.
I wore a white belt for 9 years because of my commitment issues.
But it seems like somebody's been training for about 2 years, and again, typically most belt promotions come, as the holiday breaks and things like that start coming up. And maybe it's because they've been training so consistent for so long, they finally reach that achievement. It's like, oh, I can relax, I can take a break. Holidays come, oh, I'll come back. Then they don't come back. Oh, I'll come back after the first of the year.
Okay, after spring break.
After spring break, and then it's like,
oh wait, I'm traveling a lot this summer.
yeah, I'm gonna get in shape for summer, so I'm gonna come back, and then
or
they don't.
like someone I know, they like start having kids, and then they buy a house, and everything's all crazy, and then they just don't show up for a whole year, and then promotions come, and people he started with are getting their purple belts, and he's like, oh shit, man. I need to start training again.
Well,
and then he went to every class last week.
And died. But
died, yeah.
Then there's also the people, this is annoying too, and you know who you are, and come at me. Bro, if you take offense to it. But there's the guys who get promoted, and then you don't see them for about a year. Because they know they have to sit, most schools you're going to be in a belt a minimum, 2 years minimum. But when belt promotions come around, about 8 months, they start showing up to class, putting in work, volunteering at the gym, like, hey, being like Mr. Post social, like always posting, always there, just doing all this part, and then trying to kind of be there just for the promotion, just to get the belt. And in my opinion, those are the worst type of people. Like, if I had my way, they would never get promoted. They'd stay in that belt forever. Like, it's not about like the mad dash at the end. It's just slow, consistent training. Just be there. Enjoy the ride. You will get there. And I'm living proof that if you stick around long enough, you can get a black belt. Like, it doesn't take much to get a black belt. Pay your dues, show up. How do you get better? Show up. How do you learn jiu-jitsu? Show up. Spend time on the mat. Stick around long enough, you'll get your black belt. Guaranteed.